Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folari. In Lagos, southwest of the country, where we're broadcasting from in Nigeria here, it's wet. It's wet. I don't know too many people will be complaining. Hope your side of town is different if wetness doesn't fit in exactly with your plans. Anyhow, it's still a lovely day. Now, yesterday the news hit that the Senate in Nigeria has finally passed President Buhari's Anti-Corruption Bill. We're actually giving it its full moniker. It is the Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters between Nigeria and other foreign countries, SB 224/2017. Now, it's called PMB's bill because it originated in the executive and was sent there. It's not the only one. There's also another one that they haven't quite got to yet, and that has to do with money laundering and all those kind of things. But let's deal with what we have on the ground now. My guest this morning, Mr. Evans Ufeli, he's a lawyer and also a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming on, Evans.
Thank you. Good morning.
Indeed. And thank you very much. And our friend Malaki Ugumadu, National President, CDHR. I was going to say it goes without saying, but no, not necessarily. He's a lawyer as well. I think I can just edit out it goes without saying. You might have a non-lawyer who is president of CDHR. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Dr. Becker and some.
There you go.
He was the first president. Professor Yayi wasn't a lawyer.
Indeed.
A couple of others.
And you are following in their illustrious shoes.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming on. Let me start off. Mutual legal assistance in criminal matters between Nigeria and other foreign. Well, I don't know that Nigeria is a foreign country, so I don't know why they put the word other in there. I've been wondering about that, other foreign countries. But we get the sense of what they mean. This is good news. It's nowhere near having been done yet, in the sense that it still has to go through the House of Reps.
Correct.
And then it'll land on the president's desk for assent. So just in case the House of Reps doesn't introduce anything that the presidency considers as against its own objective, I imagine it'll be signed. But maybe we could start off. The very, very basic question that a non-legal mind might ask is that, look, this whole matter of legal assistance in criminal matters, I thought it was there already, generally speaking. You can't murder someone, you can't rob a bank and then nip over to Nicaragua or wherever and expect that you're going to be free. But apparently legal minds know that it's not as simple as that. Is that right?
Not as simple as that. Quite frankly, what was almost baffling was that we didn't have this law in place up to this moment. Most countries that are focused and determined to deal with the complexities of border crimes, including money laundering and so on and so forth, have effective legal framework, by which they collaborate with other countries of the world and facilitate with very little stress in either repatriating funds or assisting other countries in effectively dealing with those category of crimes. So it's gratifying. Perhaps one of those few interventions that the Senate has made in recent times.
Because we have the Money Laundering Act.
Yes, we have the Money Laundering Act.
But this includes that, but it's different.
Correct. Now, what then is the difference? It is to document and codify in a legal, determinable legal framework that speaks to the obligations of countries that are involved in this whole legal arrangement, such that the constraints that countries that otherwise not involved in this arrangement will face are taken away, so that it doesn't matter where you commit the crime captured in that piece of legislation, the country where you run to, or where you outsource or take away this money,
hide the loot.
Take away this loot to, are already under obligation.
Okay.
By reason of that, this law.
This law, especially when it gets finalized entirely. Mr. Ufeli, are you also surprised that we didn't have something like this in place before, because what that seems to mean is that countries that have been dealing with us, for instance, I remember now, is it Switzerland or so, they offering to return part of the Abacha loot. Yeah. That was just out of the goodness of their heart. Is that what this means? That, and can this law really compel another country to do what it needs, what we would want it to do, which is kindly return our loot? Because these international laws, the law of one country can't mess with the laws of another country. How do you think all of that's going to work?
Yes, the principles of sovereignty plays out here, because every country or state is presumed to be a sovereign state, except for when there are certain interventions from UN and all that, and you have treaties, where treaties will have to soften down the rigidity of the principles of sovereignty. Okay. That is when you now have such intervention. But before now, Nigeria has relied on protocols, international protocols, in terms of, okay, like former governor of Delta State, you know, was caught somewhere, extradited back, convicted in England, and all that. Okay. And you see how is that judgment, can it be enforceable here if it's brought here and registered and all that. So we are getting closer to the proper fight against corruption. Because if you look at it, it's just an expansion of the Money Laundering Act. Because if you look at the content itself, is for proper tracing, confiscation, forfeiture, and every other variables. You understand that?
Because as you mentioned, and Malaki also spoke about, the other one that President Buhari sent to the National Assembly, to the Senate, well, to the National Assembly in January, is one that's
January 27th.
Yes, it's called Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition
Bill. That one is supposed to repeal the existing Money Laundering Act. Okay, because
it has some legal defects.
You know, there is an expansion,
an improvement.
There's an improvement to capture the international. Because if you look at the other one, the previous one, that's the existing one, it deals with question of you commit a money laundering if you have 5 million naira and above in your custody. If you transfer it without through a bank transaction, through a bank institution, it's money laundering. If you are in a casino and the owners of the casino do not properly document the people who come there to do that, it's money laundering. Then you have, you cannot go travel with above $10,000 if you don't declare it and all that. Those are just what we had. You understand? But now
we have.
We have already. But now there is an extension to that narrative, the international angle to it, because you see, the question of money laundering is an elite crime. It's an elitist crime, okay? So it's good the National Assembly, the 8th Assembly, they are doing this, okay, so that when you now move over there, okay, we have legislation here, okay, that will also help to track whatever you are, because you could have defense when you are over there, like somebody commit treason here and cross over. You understand? And the defense will be that you can't, because of the territorial, whatever. So, but here, we are now going closer to what we should have had before now to properly, fight corruption and nip it in the bud.
Where this is different, what we're talking about now, the Buhari Anti-Corruption Bill, that's the nickname that it has got for ease of reference, actually the mutual legal assistance in criminal matters between Nigeria and other foreign countries. Now, the mutual legal assistance part of it, it's you help me, I help you. That has been, well, most countries are obliged to assist in criminal matters, but as has been explained, protocols and conventions is what we've been dealing with. Now it has something of the force of law.
Correct.
Now, it seems to me, just as well, both you guys are lawyers. Correct. Lawyers are going to be studying this very, very closely, because there will be prosecution lawyers, there will also be defense lawyers. Is this going to make it harder for defense lawyers to come and get people off the hook, which apparently right now they can almost do in their sleep?
Well, on the contrary, what this does, what this law seeks to achieve, is the ease with which, law enforcement agencies, prosecution, are able to assess, evidence.
Okay, and documents, maybe documentation on that kind of thing.
Track
okay.
proceeds of crime.
Okay.
Collaborate easily with other countries, you know, with whom they share this.
Okay.
And then make available all that is needed for the effective prosecution that they would have otherwise faced Herculean tax if you're going to just rely on the goodwill, on the generosity and disposition.
Let me pursue this further, but I've got to go to break first. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. Okay, welcome back. Now, the Buhari Anti-Corruption Bill, the mutual legal assistance in criminal matters between Nigeria and other foreign countries. One of the main planks of it, and reading carefully from it here, is that it seeks to get relevant international assistance in cases of money laundering and provide a framework for other countries to assist in providing and obtaining of evidence, making arrangements for persons, as well as making arrangements for persons to give evidence. So all of this, I can see where, especially that part about making arrangements for people to give evidence, that must be a major part of it, because right now and continuing until this bill becomes law, it's not a small matter to be able to get someone to come and give evidence on behalf of the prosecution, but even perhaps the defense. Yeah. These are things, as Malaki was explaining, about making it easier now for cases to go through the system, right, in a meaningful way.
Yes.
And I had asked the tongue-in-cheek question about defense lawyers who are going to be studying this and noting how many doors have now been closed. Is that something Nigerians can look forward to, that this will further restrict the gate of unmerited escape?
To a large extent, if you cast your mind back to what the standard of proof is with respect to criminal trials, you will find that, as I always say, it's by far easier to defend a criminal offense, including money laundering, than to prosecute it.
Yes.
And therefore, if prosecution by this piece of legislation, when it becomes a law, following the assent of the president after the intervention of the House of Representatives, if prosecution now has a wider scope, a more reinforced network by which he can access better body of evidence, information, cooperation of sister countries.
By the way, just where you got to, sorry for interrupting, Interpol, Uncle.
Correct, all of those.
Because Interpol has been assisting us before, at least with the Ibori case.
Not in the way and manner that you now have it. I
this will make possible.
I use the word that, look, when this law comes into effect, and don't forget the first word in that law, it is mutual legal. It places an obligation. An obligation in law is like a duty, which is different from a privilege. When you are under a duty, it imposes a responsibility on you. And therefore, we have seen instances, and I can give you a very practical example. In this country, this is a local example, we had seen, as part of the trajectory of EFCC, for instance, a period when a government, came to power, clearly showed that it wasn't interested in the fight against corruption, left EFCC as a law enforcement agency, but took every step to undermine its effectiveness, including, of course, that at a point, I say this because I was involved in the early prosecution of Fayoshe.
Okay.
I pulled out when it became clear to me that even the government that would have been the greatest beneficiary of that exercise was not interested. What they did then was that every officer who was involved in the investigation of those persons, politically exposed persons, were posted out of EFCC as policemen to the respective states of some of these governors that are under investigation and prosecution. Now, once you go back to the traditional police setting, you have hanging on your neck a clear instruction not to leave your station, including on the days when you are expected to testify as a witness in the matter. All of those. So
these are devices that are able to be deployed.
God bless you. So if you extend that analogy to what a country with whom you have a mutual legal framework to deal with a particular kind of offense, you will see that that country becomes automatically obligated to assist you, including, of course, providing legal experts, providing persons, and making it readily available.
I'm going to come back to you. Evans, in Nigeria here, if you recall, we have a sitting senator who is required to, show himself in a foreign country in the whole matter of investigating some serious charges. That person is still very much in place here, and it is not because he says, who are you? It's the law. Yes. Aspects of the law actually enable him to be that way, rather than nip abroad, clear himself, and come back and continue with his work. This kind of, when this law comes into force, when it becomes a law and comes into force, I imagine those matters also will become a lot easier, a lot less cumbersome to deal with.
Yes.
I'm imagining.
Yes. That is if...
because
I'm not sure.
I'm playing on the mutual part. Yeah. They have to help us, we have to help them.
Yes, but I'm not sure the law is going to have a retroactive effect.
No.
Except it says so.
Yes.
Well, it's possible for a law.
Implying that.
Yeah.
I wasn't implying that, but that subsequently, people won't be able to do what is being done now, where I might decide that for whatever reason I don't want to go and answer to serious charges. Yes. And the law allows me to be here, and the U.S. can't send a commando hit team to come and bring him out like Noriega, and none of that can be done.
In this new dispensation, when it becomes law, those angles to the narrative and discourse will be softened. Okay, we will now have access to even fight crime beyond our borders, because if you look at some of the bilateral agreements and thought with the president when he was newly inaugurated into power, and he went around, part of the bilateral agreement was to fight corruption majorly. Then economy was a secondary issue at some point and all that. These countries all over where our people take monies to, you understand, the Dubai, the US, the UK and all that, they are aware of this bill. Okay, now there's a part on the back, okay, you guys are doing great, because if you look at it, the foreign countries are not interested in the corruption the money laundering and all that. We come there to fester and all that. They want a situation where we can fight this thing. And in instances where we have fought corruption, they've rated us high or higher than we used to be. So if you look at it graphically, you will find out that we are coming to a point, a situation, a position where we'll be able to not just fight crime within, okay, but fight it beyond that. But my fear in all this is still the EFCC. Yeah, if this law is in place and they change their attitude towards criminal prosecution, because when you do criminal prosecution, you find money in Ikoyi, and the next thing you carry media to the place on the first day. You are not, because when you rush criminal prosecution, you lose a lot, because a smart defense attorney understands what it is, because the more you rush, the more your evidence are not watertight, you stifle the prescient structures of criminal investigation. And the law is that in criminal trial, once you cannot prove beyond reasonable doubt, the law says you must resolve it in favor of the accused person. And that is why most of the cases...
Maraki was talking about the standards being very, very high.
Yes, okay. So because the court is not going to rely on what is in the media, the court will rely on the evidence adduced before her. So if we have this law now that will assist us to get witnesses, to document evidence properly, and to make our cases watertight, make proper investigation before arrest is made and criminal prosecution commences, then you will now have a proper structure. So as we are having a new law, increasing and expanding the scope, we should also train the officers in the EFCC and those institutions that are charged with the responsibility. Train them so that they can become in tandem with the new order, new legal order, so that what they can do is to study the law properly and now use the knowledge of this law to further enhance.
In short, just be professional
yes,
in what they do.
Process.
Malaki, this law is all well and good. Yesterday we were talking about the Senate having delivered on what is expected of it by Nigerians. And then again, there's this other one that they've now done too. It was yesterday, it was about PIB, and now it's about PMB's anti-corruption law. Is the Senate turning over a new leaf from the perception of being just difficult, is probably the way to put it. I understand I have to go on a break, but this new mode of the Senate where, this is what people sort of expected any parliamentary body to be.
I hope we will put it in context.
Let's try and do that. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So yesterday it was PIB that we were talking about and saying that kudos Senate. This is the kind of thing we were expecting, working in tandem with everybody else. Now we have the anti-corruption bill, so-called, Buhari'S anti-corruption bill, so-called. And so the question I posed to Malaki is this Senate being born again?
Well, I think that's a good one for them because good but unfortunate. The PIB that you referenced took as much as 7 years.
Well, they said the conversation had been going on for what?
For a very long time.
17 years, nearly 2 decades.
Now, that is also reminiscent of what we went through with the FY bill, which wasn't their initiative to start with. I recall how very active we were in that whole process from the civil society. Now, if you take this, I showed earlier because I wondered why it wasn't even in place.
Okay, the mutual legal assistance.
There is an international, a very serious international concern, a global concern about the movement of money and assets in relation to the security of the world. Talking about the access of funds by militia groups, by violent.
You think our Senate keyed into that?
Well, let me insist that even the idea of EFCC as a law enforcement agency wasn't so much about Obasanjo's idea. It was literally a condition given by the international community to be able to cooperate
with us.
So if you are a student of history, international history, you would appreciate where all of these are coming from. Now, the Senate, as I round off, first, it wasn't it is an executive bill.
Yes.
One that is also traceable to the international concern about control of assets and money in relation to the state of the security condition of the world.
Thank you. Because what you've done, I think, Evans, is that Malaki has put perspective on the question.
Yes.
Say, look, beyond even the way I phrased it, this is the way the whole world is moving. Yes. And if we're not going to be an exception to best practices all over the world, quite frankly, we have very little choice. And so in that sense, you might take down some of the praise for the Senate and say, look, they were just evolving naturally. They have very little wiggle room. Yes. Would you subscribe to that idea, or do you see it differently?
It's long overdue. You see, what the Senate have done is just to yield to the overriding practice the world over. Even those countries we are
that they
talking
couldn't
about
have resisted for much longer without giving themselves a bad name.
You see, if they had done even the right thing, by now we should be talking about how to even reenact and re-enhance it, not passing it.
Correct.
You understand?
But
because
fairness,
every law...
This Senate, this Bukola Saraki-led Senate, for instance, it has to have some kudos that, look, it's been lying there on the shelf. It is your Senate, so to speak, not his personal Senate, but it is this particular, one that did that. Don't the
kudos to them
and all these guys, don't they get some...
Well, kudos to them, but I don't see that as much of an achievement.
I see.
Than it is of any other thing. It's just one of the things they ought to have done even far, far before now.
Indeed.
And by now we should be talking about how do we enhance this law further, because every law must go through developmental stage. That is why you even amend constitutions. America have over 27 amendments or thereabouts.
Thank you very much for putting it all in perspective. That don't let us get carried away with praise, because these are things that should have been done ages ago.
As we speak,
they should have been done ages ago.
The Proceed of Crime Bill is still with them. All of these, look,
the whistleblower
bill is still with them.
All of these, and there was a fear that...
Let's imagine that is technically accommodated in this. But look, the point is, to what extent can we afford the kind of pressure that you must mount? Don't forget, it wasn't their bill, it was an executive bill.
Yes.
And the fact, some Nigerians will read it that it's an executive bill, this is the one we're talking about right now, and others. But no doubt the Senate will say we are mistaken, but people consider the Senate as being hostile sometimes to some of the initiatives that come out of the executive. But all of that seems to have been put to one side, subject to the caveats that you guys have given us, and we're moving on. So I don't know.
Well, the problem with politicians is that they see everything from the lens of interest. So if it's not going to be very palatable and beneficial, look at when they moved to amend the ACJA. You know, when they passed, the 7th Assembly passes, they were outgoing and they properly didn't understand what they're doing. When the 8th Assembly came in and Saraki was caught up by the web of that law, that, okay, you cannot adjourn beyond this, you cannot bring preliminary objection on this, you cannot do this. They gathered in 2 weeks, they were ready to amend this law before Nigerians voiced out. You know, you see, but the positivist school of jurisprudence in law says that law is the preferences of the elites.
Okay.
You understand? And that plays very, very, very powerful within our mix. So that is what, that is why when you discuss these laws with politicians, you won't get the right import, because they are going to communicate, they are going to see, and they are going to visualize from the lens of interest.
Want to protect.
It's just about interest.
Mr. George, thank you for holding on, sir. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to Malaki and the other guests.
Good morning.
Mr. George.
Uncle Yori, anything that comes out from this Senate, I take it with precaution. How can you have a bill with you for 1.5 years? A government that came in principally to fight corruption sent you a bill that will enable you to fight corruption, and for 1.5 years, you are just taking one part of it. And you expect me to join those who are praising them for that? Yesterday, Uncle Yori, I saw the repeat of the broadcast of the so-called PID bill that they passed. They decided to lift the one that they will have opportunity, people will come for confirmation of appointments, and then they will call them for negotiation. See me before I confirm you. Meanwhile, communities are rioting, people are dying. We are not having a peaceful environment to lift oil and get the necessary income we're supposed to get from it. They didn't look at those ones. And this after 30 years or so. And you want me to say, to sing their praises? Being that as it is, I want us to go back to the first question you asked at the beginning of the program. This law is a law in Nigeria aimed at carrying out, orderliness in our country. If somebody goes to keep money in another country, how can we force them with this law to cooperate with us in getting that money back?
Okay, thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Okay, he would like to know that, and let me just keep that in abeyance for the moment, because I wanted, following from what he said, and also what you gentlemen have also said here, do you think the Senate is actually cherry-picking when it comes to what laws they are now rolling out as, well, Senate has given its assent to after the third reading, that kind of thing? Are they cherry-picking? Because Mr. George made the point that the PIB thing we were talking about yesterday, it's the easiest. You know, the more contentious ones have been left well alone. Even this one now, they've come out and you guys have given your reservations about it. Is the Senate cherry-picking?
They are not pretentious about it. And I think I'm being charitable to them. You recall that, and this is very important, which is precisely why I don't want to take away the influence of politics in all of this mix. It's actually a mixed bag. If you take it at the surface level, you'll be full of praises for them.
Okay.
If you dig deeper, precisely for which reason I said we need to put this in context, you begin to understand what informs what they are doing.
Okay, one moment please, because Apostle Diamond has come on the line. He's in Iba. Good morning, Apostle Diamond.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
When I heard about international relations as far as issues of repatriating our money is concerned, I smiled. For God's sake, there's what we call national interest. What we now have now is self-centered interest. And the bulk of it is right in the heart of the Senate. Anything passed by the Senate, honestly, I've removed my ears out of mind, out of hearing, and out of mind, everything from them. They cannot offer anything good to this country. Because all of them, by the special grace of God, with what I've seen, they won't lead us to anywhere. Look at the Petroleum Bill. It's just what they have done. I'm from Nigeria. I studied it, I watched it, I looked at it. I laughed again. I never smiled this time. This time around, I laughed. Honestly, I pity this country.
Okay.
This set of people, let me finish.
Well,
Nigerians are not happy.
Is there any more to... well, you said that you don't really put much stock on anything coming out of there, and I understand that. I'm not arguing that.
Rise up and allow this set of people to be moved. We don't want Senate anymore.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Are you still... Okay. Quickly, please. Oh, okay, you're gone. Thank you very much for calling in, Apostle Diamond. But I don't know. It's okay for for Apostle Diamond to have the perspective that he has, but we're probably a bit concerned with not throwing the baby out with the bathwater with a wholesale condemnation. Yes, the Senate has annoyed many Nigerians, let it be said. But they still have a job of work to do that we can judge them by. They still have functions, and we can see, we can actually have a conversation on how well they are doing, whatever, no matter how little it is that they are doing in the context of how much there is to be done.
Yes.
You know, we still have to look at it like that.
Yes, their function still stays by the Constitution. You have it in the Constitution and all that. But I think what he's trying to say is that the Senate should be honest enough to take the country at heart, the interest of nation, country first, because as it stands, it is not country first.
No,
it's about it's about politics. It's about how do I get back to the house after my tenure? How do I return? How do I keep returning to this same place? You understand? That is what the
and so the primary interest when they are considering these matters is not the overriding national interest.
And if you look at the section 14 of the Constitution, it says that the government, the Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people.
Indeed.
From which government derive our legitimacy.
But you people have just explained how it is the elite that actually cause laws to come about in a certain way. Let me call on Mr. Israel, calling in from what? Ojo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yore. Actually, Adesina from Ojo.
Oh, it's Adesina. I'm sorry about that. Good morning, sir.
Uncle Yore, good morning.
Good morning.
My people said, Yini can me. And you see, Uncle Yori, I want us to know that though the Senate are coming, that we need to impress upon them to do more. That is by the way. Like, I want to say something that Uncle Yori, the problem we are still having in spite of the law, the bill that has been passed on anti-corruption. We need to go to the source. If you don't have a right diagnosis of an ailment, you will not have a right treatment for it. And that is where the institution needs to be strengthened. An institution whereby one person is allowed to have such bogus amount of money at his disposal, and at his own will is determine how the money should be spent. One person having billions of naira from government covers. So we need to strengthen this institution. We need to stop this crime from being committed even from the source.
Okay. So
that one person cannot just have access to money at will, no matter the political office is holding. If he's going to be a governor, we should have more than 100 people that will be signatory to such large amount of money that should be taken from the central bank. So this, we can put a check to this.
All right then. Thank you very much. I got to interrupt. I beg your pardon for doing so. I got to interrupt. But thank you very much. I did get, indeed, the point that you were making. We understand that from so many different commentators that, you know, laws are not our problem. We have the laws. If the existing laws were all being applied the way they should, a lot of our problems would actually disappear. We'll come back and look at that particular aspect of it and whether it affects this one that is in process of being passed right now. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back now. The home stretch of our conversation this morning, there's still outstanding in that very Senate we're discussing this morning, the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill, which was sent on the same day as the one that we're talking about. That one has not seen the light of day. However, this one, mutual legal assistance in criminal matters between Nigeria and other foreign countries, that one has now been passed by the Senate. So many different provisions in it, but some catch my eye here. When it's in force, there will be the execution of requests for search and seizure, the location and identification of witnesses and suspects. There's restraining of dealings in property or the freezing of assets that may be recovered, forfeited, or confiscated in respect of offenses. So that's the kind of thing that's contained in the bill. But we've observed numerous times that the laws are not really our problem. It is applying those laws properly. That's the problem. You guys alluded to, around the world, the elite usually have an influence on how laws are cast. How is this going to be different? Isn't this going to be just more of the same, where the elite know how to get hold of lawyers to still, you know, escape that which is the intended effect of it?
Well, that cliche had gained currency and had always been valid in the past. We're always admonished to perpetually remain vigilant, because vigilance is the eternal price we pay for the liberty we manage to secure. Now, having said that, I am tempted to believe, you know, if you like, observe that there may be very deliberate efforts to also use the law this time around to constitute that stumbling block that you think doesn't exist. Okay. And how do I mean? You could see what the same Senate was able to do on several occasions when it became clear that they were coming close to the powers that they enjoy and the capacity that they have to call the shots. For instance, during the confirmation exercise of Mr. Magu, we saw to the embarrassment of the entire entire nation, some of which are now being, approached for mutual legal assistance, where it became very clear that this Senate does not want a very formidable character to head an institution that probably has a capacity to move on against them. And that was in total disregard of the Constitution. I'm referencing Section 171, subsection 4. Now, when it also came to the point where the Senate was running amok with the Code of Conduct Bureau, they rose to the same situation where they tried to amend the law to be able to run away from.
Can you imagine?
From
liability.
We need to remind ourselves consistently of all of this.
Mr. Chukwudi calling in from Ogudu. Good morning. Did I get that right? Is anybody there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Chukwudi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My problem with this Senate and the House is that they are not fighting corruption. They are fighting the fight against corruption. These people are fighting the fight against corruption. They want anything that will scuttle this fight against corruption because all of them are corrupt. So my question to Ugumadu is, what can Nigerians do to get these people out of that?
How can you say that? Hello, Mr. Chukwudi. Mr. Chukwudi. Mr. Chukwudi. Yes. Sorry, sir. So that I understand you. The Senate has just approved or passed the Buhari Anti-Corruption Bill. How can you say they are fighting the fight against corruption? Could you explain in maybe 1 or 2 sentences?
Okay. Why didn't they pass the other one? This one they passed has no bite. Why don't they pass the other one? And you can remember that they have done everything to scuttle the fight against corruption.
Okay.
Most of them there have one case or the other against them. But because our EFCC is not capable of really doing the needful to be able to prosecute and jail these people, that's why it has been lingering. We need to bring FBI or whatever other intelligence unit to come and help EFCC.
Okay.
They're doing a good job, but they don't know how to go about it.
All right.
They are criminals.
Mr. Chukwudi, no. Sorry, sir. Mr. Chukwudi, thank you very much for calling in. I understand that subjects like this will be impassioned, but you can't call those senators criminals. They are sitting senators of the Federal Republic. But maybe would you like to come in on, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but still, we have to phrase what we say on public television
have to be continental
carefully.
in our language.
Yes.
I understand, but you see, what the whole issue is, an assembly that have over 20 past governors or thereabout, who have cases pending with the EFCC.
Yes.
It will be difficult for you to find the same set of persons looking at anti-corruption bills and passing all of them at the same time, because they have a way of getting back to them. Yeah. That is what we talked about.
And they ran to that Senate, they got themselves elected to that very Senate for
cover.
For the very, very cover.
You understand?
So these are problems that Nigeria
And when you now have laws that are talking about the proceeds of crime, and you have some senators who strive with the proceeds of crime, or as it were, then it will be a system that works against itself if you want them. But I'm not justifying that, because the country should come first.
Okay. Yeah, but the country should come first. It doesn't even. It goes without saying. But we know that is observed often time in the breach more than in the compliance.
Yes.
Ikemefuna, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, ma'am.
Like I've always said, the Senate should be scrapped. They are a drain pipe of this country. There's nothing they sign that they are going to carry out. They just signed it to please Nigerians, to make us feel they are doing some job. They are doing no job.
But
madam, the budget of the Senate, you could see
the
budget of the Senate, the National Assembly, where it's coming from, and we don't need that much people.
There are many offenses that the Senate has committed against the ordinary people, quote unquote. But this one, they did it right, did they not? They signed the President Buhari bill.
House of Reps is enough to represent Nigerians. The Senate, they are a drain pipe.
Okay.
We don't need them. We don't want them.
All right.
They can't do anything for us.
Okay.
They just sit there and talk and drain this country.
Thank you, Mrs. Ikemefuna.
Nigerians have to fight
Thank you, Mrs. Ekemefuna. The Senate should come and go.
Mrs. Ekemefuna is advocating
yes.
a unicameral
yes,
legislature.
that we have the guys in the House of Reps are enough.
They're predicating it on the point that the utility of the Senate
yes.
is long gone.
Exactly. So it says something about this Senate.
And therefore,
so I hope
therefore they are not just scampering into the Senate for safety.
Yeah.
You can see they are all decamping now from
Yeah,
PDP to APC, further exposing the poverty of the situation.
You know, the beauty of this kind of thing, Mrs. Ekemufuna's point, and then some before her, is that I hope some senators are watching. Maybe
they usually watch.
Maybe Senate President Saraki might be too busy, but at least they are hearing the perception out there. Yes. Even when they've done this one, which is what we wanted them to do, people are still angry. Say, what is it? We're going by the previous actions and going by reading between the lines, they are not on your side. Now the Senate needs to work to prove the contrary. That the only reason we have a National Assembly is it's going to be on the people's side and working in cooperation and tandem, not necessarily rubber stamping. Anything that comes from
you know,
else.
it's been quite unfortunate for the Nigerian people because, you know, taking it from inception, I told you I just wrote an article captioned "Power will soon lie on the street again," where we're emphasizing the point that that same power is not in PDP any longer because it's badly decimated. It's not in APC because APC has remained the greatest opposition to APC. So it is not even with the people because we're completely demobilized.
We've run out of time.
And then it's not in the military because we can hear what is happening there. So it will be on the street very soon. So the Senate, as we speak,
needs to listen.
By the verdict of the Nigerian people, have on their neck that albatross of lack of sincerity or purpose.
Indeed. Just you got a closing thought? Because
yes, my closing thought is that Nigerians, the civil society group, must be reactivated to fight because, you see, all over the world, power belongs to the people. And it is a power that resides in the people that gives government legitimacy.
Thank you very much for keeping it that brief. I know there's a lot more there. Evans Ufeli, lawyer and public affairs analyst. And also thank you, Malaki Ugumado, National President of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights and lawyer as well.
Thank you
very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm Yori Folari.